Something significant just happened at the Central Bank of Iraq, and if you hold Iraqi Dinar or have been watching this space for any length of time, you need to hear this before the week is out. Because what the CBI just decided about Iraq's currency notes is not a small administrative update. It may be one of the most consequential moves this institution has made in years, and most people in the IQD community are still trying to understand what it actually means. So stay with me through this entire video, because by the end, you are going to have a clear, grounded picture of what changed, why it matters, and what experienced IQD holders are quietly watching right now. Let's begin. For years, one of the central debates among Iraqi Dinar analysts has been whether the CBI would ever take decisive action on the physical structure of Iraq's currency, not just the exchange rate, but the actual notes in circulation, the denominations, the design, the supply. Because here's something many newer investors don't realize. A currency reform involving notes is not just cosmetic. It is a signal about where a central bank's monetary strategy is heading. And the CBI has now moved in that direction in a way that's drawing serious attention from economists and long-term observers alike. The Central Bank of Iraq recently announced changes to its currency note framework, and while the full details are still being analyzed, what is clear is that this decision reflects a deliberate shift in how Iraq wants to manage its monetary supply and present its currency to the broader financial world. This is not a rumor. This is a documented institutional move, and the timing matters enormously. But that's only part of the story. To understand why this decision carries weight, you have to look at the context surrounding it. Iraq's economy has been undergoing quiet but meaningful reform over the past few years. The government has worked to reduce its dependence on informal currency exchange channels, crack down on dollar smuggling that previously drained foreign reserves, and align its banking sector more closely with international compliance standards. These are not glamorous headlines, but they are the structural foundations that any serious monetary development would need to stand on. Think back to 2023 when the CBI implemented its new foreign currency sales platform in response to pressure from the U.S. Treasury and the Federal Reserve. At the time, many observers dismissed it as bureaucratic noise, but that move fundamentally changed how dollars flowed through Iraq's banking system, and it started a chain reaction that is still unfolding today. The note change announcement has to be understood as part of that same chain. Here's what many investors are overlooking. When a central bank introduces new currency notes, whether that involves redesigns, new security features, new denominations, or a phased withdrawal of old ones, it almost always accompanies a broader effort to formalize the economy. In Iraq's case, the significance is amplified because such a large percentage of the dinar in circulation exists outside the formal banking system. Cash held in homes, cash used in informal markets, cash that the CBI has limited visibility into. A structured note transition forces that cash back into the system. It gives the central bank a clearer picture of actual money supply, and it sets the stage for more precise monetary policy going forward. For IQD holders, this matters for one key reason. Monetary policy clarity is a prerequisite for any meaningful exchange rate adjustment. You cannot responsibly revalue or redenominate a currency if you don't have a firm grasp of how much of that currency is actually in circulation. The CBI knows this, and this move suggests they're working toward that clarity. Now let's talk about the exchange rate itself, because that's where most investors are focused, and rightfully so. The official rate set by the CBI has held in a relatively stable band over recent months, but the parallel market rate, the rate you see in street exchanges and informal transactions across Iraq, has told a different story. Gaps between the official and parallel market rates tend to emerge when market confidence diverges from official policy. That gap has been narrowing in recent reporting, which is a meaningful sign. When the gap narrows, it typically indicates that monetary reforms are starting to take hold and that public confidence in the official system is gradually increasing. This detail may change how you view today's news.
A narrowing spread between official and parallel market rates has historically preceded periods of greater exchange rate stability, and in some documented cases in other emerging economies, it has preceded upward adjustments as well. We are not making a prediction here. Markets are uncertain, and anyone who tells you they know exactly what the IQD will do and when is not being straight with you. But what we can say is that the conditions being built right now, reduced parallel market divergence, new note structure, tighter banking compliance, are the kinds of conditions that serious monetary reformers work to establish before making larger moves. Let's look at the oil dimension, because Iraq's currency and Iraq's oil revenue are inseparable. Iraq remains one of OPEC's most significant producers, and oil revenues continue to fund the vast majority of the Iraqi government budget. Recent oil market dynamics have created a complex environment. Global demand projections have shifted, OPEC Plus production decisions have kept supply relatively controlled, and Iraq's oil export numbers have remained strong enough to sustain the foreign currency reserves that the CBI depends on to support the diner's value. Here's why this connects directly to the note change. A central bank that is managing a currency transition needs adequate reserves to absorb any shocks that come from that transition. If citizens start exchanging old notes for new notes at a rapid pace, the CBI needs to have the institutional capacity and reserve depth to handle that without destabilizing the system. Iraq's current reserve position, while always subject to fluctuation, has been reported at levels that give the CBI meaningful room to operate. That is a prerequisite, and it appears to currently be in place. The next development in this story could be even more important than what we are discussing right now, because there's a global financial layer to this as well. Iraq's path toward greater international financial integration, including discussions around Article 8 status with the International Monetary Fund, which would make the dinar formally convertible for current account transactions, has been a long-term objective for Iraqi monetary authorities. A currency with credible modern notes and a tightened supply structure is a more attractive candidate for that kind of international recognition. We do not know the timeline, but the direction of travel is observable. Compare this to where Iraq was in 2020, when the CBI made the difficult decision to adjust the official exchange rate, effectively devaluing the dinar against the dollar, to address a budget crisis triggered by low oil prices and COVID-19 disruption. That move was painful for many, but it was also followed by a period of gradual stabilization and eventually a partial corrective adjustment in the official rate. The lesson from that cycle is that the CBI does act deliberately, does respond to economic fundamentals, and does make course corrections over time. That institutional pattern matters when you're trying to read current decisions. So what does all of this mean taken together? Here's the balanced summary. The CBI's decision about new currency notes is a real and documented institutional action. It is consistent with a broader pattern of monetary reform and formalization that has been building for several years. The timing coincides with improvements in parallel market dynamics, continued oil revenue stability, and ongoing efforts to align Iraq's banking system with international standards. None of this guarantees a specific outcome for IQD holders. Currency markets involve complexity and uncertainty that no analyst can fully predict, but the structural indicators that serious investors watch are moving in a direction that merits continued close attention. The story here is not about hype. It is about watching a central bank take methodical steps and asking honestly, where does this trajectory lead? That is a question worth staying engaged with. If you found this analysis valuable, if it helped you see this development with more clarity and less noise, then please take a moment right now to give this video a like. It helps more people who are serious about understanding the Iraqi dinar find this content instead of the speculation and misinformation that is far too common in this space. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already, and turn on notifications so you're alerted the moment a new update goes live. Share this with anyone in your network who follows the IQD, because in a space where good information is rare, sharing the right content matters. We'll be back with the next update as developments continue to unfold. Stay informed, stay patient, and stay grounded.